Welcome to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about 4 ways to deal with grief and loss during the holidays. So there's really not one way to deal with grief and loss during the holidays. There are a lot of things that count as grief and loss, from the actual death of a loved one to the loss of an important relationship. Lucky for me, I get to deal with both of these this holiday season, which is why I decided I would do this podcast. Plus, we've all just lived through a pandemic, and that took a lot of lives, and it took a lot of loved ones away from us. And as the holidays are approaching, it may be more challenging to deal with, the holidays and the decorating or maintaining family traditions. How do you get all your shopping done or decide what holiday events you can handle? And it really doesn't matter if this is your first holiday without that loved one or the 20th. I was actually watching a movie the other night, and one of the lines in the movie was, that time heals all wounds. And she's like, no, it doesn't. So it might make the wound a little smaller, but the holidays can often trigger pain and sadness. And so we just have to learn how to find strength and support to help us navigate this journey. Caregivers will face a double loss if the person they cared for, not only for the loss of the person that they cared for, but their role as a caregiver. So they may need to talk about their losses and these feelings, whether they be positive or negative. So just allowing them time to do that is going to be important, because we all have to help each other. And I've often heard grief described as something, like the ocean and its waves that kind of ebb and flow. And sometimes the water's calm and sometimes it's overwhelming. But really the healthiest response is going to be to learn how to swim, rather than avoiding the water. So here are 4 tips to help you learn to swim if you're experiencing grief or loss this holiday season. So tip number 1, take good care of yourself. So be gentle with yourself and give yourself permission to not do things that you don't feel like you can handle. Really be in tune with your emotions and how you're feeling in the moment, and be okay with it. You might not be able to do everything that you've done before. Make sure that you're planning healthy meals and eating good food that's healthy for you. Make sure that you're getting plenty of exercise, drinking plenty of water, and avoiding alcohol if that's going to make you sadder, and making sure that you get enough sleep. So tip number 2 is to get support. And because there can be a lot of different triggers to all the different feelings that come with grief and loss, you shouldn't feel like you have to stifle your emotions. So set aside time to experience the range of emotions that you may feel, from anger to sadness, and to try to release your emotions by for me, I do this through watching a tearjerker. So I've already, watched about 3 or 4 holiday movies. Sometimes they make me laugh, sometimes they make me cry, and then sometimes they just make me mad because they're so fictitious. But anyways, but you may watch a tearjerker, or you may want to find movies that give you a good belly laugh. I think both are fine, and they're healthy ways to release those normal feelings. But you should be truthful about your feelings when asked, and to be sure that you don't hurt the person who's doing the asking. And then I think for me, like, I also don't feel like I should have emotional diarrhea. I will tell you how I'm feeling, but I don't think that I'm going to go on and on about it. But if you ask somebody how they're doing and they start to tell you, well, then you just need to sit there and listen, and let them express their emotions. So tip number 3, acknowledge and honor the loved one that's lost, or not lost, but passed away. You can create new traditions in memory of your loved one. You can donate to a cause that they were passionate about. You can volunteer your own time, or you could plant a tree. There are a lot of different things that you could do to honor that person. You can talk about the person with close family and friends, and reminisce and remember that person and the good times. But you can look at family photos, look at old movies, and share stories of past holidays. And the final tip I have is to focus on what you can control. None of us really can control, when someone else dies. We can't control if they, leave a relationship, or maybe we end the relationship. So trying to stay focused in the moment and not getting too caught up in the past, and not worrying too much about the future, because that's why it's called the present. So give yourself that present. You can cook your favorite meals, eat your favorite foods, and then even journaling about your thoughts and feelings might help you to tease out kind of what's within your control and what's not. In addition to these 4 tips, be sure that if you are grieving and need help, that you find family and friends that you can turn to, but also realize that a lot of people feel really awkward if you're trying to share your feelings. So think about that other person and kind of decide if that's a person that you can really trust to handle your own emotions. You can draw comfort from your own faith. You might need to try to find a support group, or talk to a therapist or a grief counselor. There's no right or wrong way to process your own emotions. So these are just a few tips to keep in mind for this holiday season. So um, other than that, I wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season. And again, we all need each other. So find the people in your circle that can support you and be with you if this is something that you're also dealing with this year.
Thank you for tuning in to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and if you'd like to learn more, you can check out my other episodes on my YouTube channel by subscribing and ringing the bell to get immediate notifications when new content comes out. In addition, you can also find the audio version of the podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher. Please feel free to leave an honest review because more reviews mean more awareness of the podcast and helps us move towards an age-friendly world. If you have a comment or a question, you can visit my website, melissabphd.com. Go to the Contact Melissa tab, and you can leave me a voice message. You never know, it might just include your question or your comment in an upcoming episode.